April 19th, 2025. Welcome to This Week in Waukesha, the podcast series, podcast number 2. I am your host, Don Brown, coming to you from the office of former Alderman Don Paul Brown in our beautiful Banting Park home. And I'm joined by my faithful producer, the mighty Max Martinson at WOUK Studios in Radio Park on Victory Drive. And I am so glad to be rejoined by Nicki Ciurro, who is the executive director of the Waukesha County Historical Society and Museum. And yes, while that's a mouthful, it's very much so is all the great offerings of the society and the museum for our community. And so I'm glad Nicki has been able to, because we barely scratched the surface in the first podcast. So we may need to make this an every other month thing here, Nicki, if we can.
I,
So, but
I think that'd be great because we have a lot of various things going on, and it'd be
sure.
great to share
Yeah,
really fun things we're doing.
definitely. We have all these youth sports teams, these different great, our high schools have great performing arts programs and theater and all these, there's great music, bands, student bands. I mean, just so many neat, I know there was a Waukesha South academic decathlon team that went to state competition. And, those are the things that need to be celebrated as part of Waukesha's rich history. And it was one of the things I prided myself on when I was on the council was I would have the mayoral proclamations for any time a student team or organization had achieved something, that I made sure that they would be honored, and their teachers and coaches in front of a city council. And that was always a big deal to them too, as it should be for the whole community. And same thing at our historical society. So I think you wanted to jump right in. Did you want to start with the archives or the fact or your funding, like where your funding comes from?
Well, I want to just kind of quick hit our archives. So we have a lovely museum, and in again before my time, there county stopped funding the museum completely in 2015, and these are three old buildings we're in, and there was a fear that the museum and the historical society would have to close, and we luckily we didn't. And Berg Management did purchase these buildings and refurbish these buildings, so we have a smaller footprint, but we're still here. Um,
Great.
so I have kind of these, I don't want to say pat statements, but I always say that we have a lovely museum. It'd be really sad to lose the museum.
Mm-hmm.
It would be devastating for this county if we
Yeah.
lose that archive.
Yeah.
The archive has over 1 million documents,
Right.
photographs. We have the O'Brien photograph collection. We
Mm.
have scrapbooks. We have manuscripts. We have sewer records, which are fascinating when you're researching a property.
Yeah.
We have John Shankenix, a huge part of John's research for the on the springs, and I'm barely scratching the surface. So again, to lose the archives, they'd probably go to the state,
Mm.
but then you have to go to Madison, and you don't have people who know and are intimate with this collection.
And it gets lost somewhere. Yeah.
It
Do
does. It
are
does.
there opportunities for volunteers to help with the archives to help that way it kind of it keeps it functional or
It is. It is. I mean, it's what we used to have an archivist. We don't have an archivist anymore.
mm,
The way the archivist did set it up, it is set up very well, and we have a group of volunteers that run and maintain the archives. Um, with me checking in, though, I have to say I'm not an archivist. People go to school
right?
to get a
Sure.
degree in
Yeah.
that. It's library science and archives.
Yeah.
Um, so our volunteers are wonderful, but we also need to train like the next group of people to do
Yeah.
that. So
Sure.
it would be lovely to have some people that would be interested in learning more about the archives and help supporting that. Um, so that's my shout out for the archives. And then as
Yeah.
if you are people can come to do research, you have to have an appointment because again we're small,
Sure.
um, and it's very nominal fee. And if you're a member, parts of that is free. So become a member and support your museum. And as a member, you also get a wonderful quarterly magazine called Landmark. where
Okay.
folks write articles about Waukesha history, and you get that sent to you quarterly. So become a member.
Yeah, I should. Yeah, we have to. So, um, but yeah, no, and then we'll have to talk offline because I think I may know someone that would be interested in volunteering to support the archives and in possibly a different way. You know, I'd probably have to run some things by you. But anyway, moving on. I don't know if you know, but I'm currently, I don't know if I'll be renewed, but the last couple of years I served on the city cemetery commission.
Oh,
When you
okay.
talk about history, I imagine there's a lot of overlap, but I encourage everyone to take the wagon, the carriage tour, the horse and buggy, or what do you call it, the hayride.
Mhm.
Talk about a walk through Waukesha history.
So, so I don't know if you knew that we do grave tales. So depending
I think I
on,
did, yeah.
October is a busy month in Waukesha, which is great.
October, you said?
Yeah,
Yeah,
October.
that
Last
makes
year we
sense.
had to do in September because we had Waukesha unlocked. I'm like, I can't
Yeah,
squeeze it in.
yeah.
But September or October, we do two rounds of grave tales. So
Nice.
I was Theodore Youngsman last
Neat.
year. Uh,
Okay. Oh, wow.
and so then one of our volunteers walks through and talks about just the rich history of
Yeah.
Prairie Home Cemetery, which is just
Yeah.
fascinating
Yeah.
unto itself. The boys' school was in that area. I mean, there's just
Hmm.
even getting to the different characters.
Yeah.
There's so much history. So
Yeah.
well, that's fun.
When you talk about history and people have a fascination for a lot of the detective story genres you see and cold cases, of course, which I'm really
Hmm.
passionate about. And then even kind of the paranormal or um, but I'm really fascinated with the Little Lord Fauntleroy
Right?
story. And I do visit his grave regularly, and I'll bring a
Yep.
toy. But that's an unsolved mystery, like
Right.
how he was brutally murdered. And
Mhm.
there was a lead that surfaced, I think, a few years later, and it was cold. It wasn't, it was
Mhm.
like a guy skipped town that abandoned a child or something like that, and it was a different story. But yes, that would it would be really neat. And also so that the young boy could rest easily, in his other afterlife, because I know there's been some sightings, in the evening, so as well as some of the other deceased. But the commission had approved to have a couple like runs there through the cemetery,
Oh
and
yes,
people
yes.
were concerned about that not being appropriate. But when you look at the history, they would have like Memorial Day picnics there
Hmm.
in different communities where the whole community would gather.
Yes.
And
Well,
so
in cemeteries, before we had parks, cemeteries were a place where families would go on Sundays, on the weekend,
yeah,
and have picnics and
sure,
such. And
yeah,
I mean, everybody has a different sensibility,
yeah,
uh, but just here's my sensibility.
yeah,
Again, I'm not
sure,
not put, but like somebody coming to see my when I pass and where I am, I'm like, okay, cool. Like
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
here lies, and I'll go back to Les Paul. Les Paul put a lot of thought of where he would be buried and
hmm,
who he would be buried with, and
right,
how. And it's a really Sue Baker, who used to be the executive director and now is part of the Les Paul, important part of the Les Paul
oh
Foundation, and one
neat,
of my, not
sure,
just a great resource but a friend. She worked with him to help find that spot. So that
nice,
thought process that he put in there, and he's buried with his mother, his beloved mother.
oh
So
wow,
again, there's a story in that,
yeah,
and so a run honoring that cemetery and the people in there. I, Again, this is a Nicki
yeah,
thought, but I think it's important, and it's the same with grave tales. It's not disrespectful.
no,
We are sharing those stories of people that time sometimes may forget. And
yeah.
again, I was Theodora, who delivered the votes for
Well,
Wisconsin to
Theodore
get the
Yelmans, yeah,
19th,
one of my
yeah, to
heroes.
get
Yep.
the 19th Amendment ratified.
Hmm.
And some of us
Yeah.
went and put our "I voted" sticker on her
Oh,
grave.
I lobbied for that. I promoted that when I was doing radio, and the studio used to be around the corner from Theodora, and and my introduction always included right around the corner from Theodora Yelmans Park, where we were proud to honor our suffragette heritage here in the Shaw. And yeah, I should figure out how to factor that in still into my
Let's do
podcast.
that. That could be a
That's
good collaboration because
yeah,
I saw that with Susan B. Anthony's grave site,
Right, right. Me
and
too. And
I'm
that's
not
what
a
kind of
choir,
inspired
and I was
me.
just nodding,
Yeah,
and I'm like,
sure.
we need to do that. So again, the Prairie Home Cemetery is amazing. Great stories there, and we have activities there. So just to let people know too, we have a monthly lunch and learn. We have that's the second Tuesday of each month. This in May will be Agricultural Legacies of Waukesha County by a gentleman who comes from a family of farmers and is one of our board
Nice.
members and volunteers. June is Les Paul, so Sue Baker. Um, and in July is my partner, Malcolm Woods, who's going to talk about the Ice Age Trail. So really diverse and interesting topics.
Sure.
Um, so it, and we talked about the Intergenerational Heritage Fair. That's coming really soon.
Hmm.
So I'm pretty active on Facebook
Yeah.
and I do a monthly newsletter. So if you go to our new lovely website, it pops up like, hey, would you like to
What's
get an email? I try not to send too many
sure.
emails.
What's the
Um,
for the benefit of our listeners? What's the URL for
that's a
the
very, I'm going to make sure I get this right. It is waukeshacountymuseum.org.
perfect? Okay, good. So I know it's a long one, but easy to remember. And
It's
so
such a long name.
WaukeshaCountyMuseum.org.
waukeshacountymuseum.org.
So very good. Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned that. And and another part of Waukesha history is when you look at that winter jamboree that was started, was that over 50 years ago now or something like that, or it's close to somewhere in that range. And it was a lot of it was like 3 or 4 women, housewives, that felt that their kids and their husbands, the whole family, weren't getting outside enough in the winter, and they created. And that would be neat because, as you know, with the jamboree, there's different indoor outdoor events, and I don't know if the historical society's ever been in, but that would be a neat
Oh,
thing to
we
have.
are part of that. We're the second Saturday
Are you
of
okay?
February, always. So
It'd
it's a
be
free
neat
day
to
at the
see when they
museum.
had skating and hockey games on the river, when
Oh,
you can count
wow.
on it being frozen, and
Right.
some of the other events that don't take place today. It'd be neat to celebrate that.
Hmm.
So
Yes. So we are open and such. So and in the end, the ideas are really great. We have an area of like we call it what's new, but it could
mhm,
also be what's new, huh?
sure,
It takes a minute to do the research and then create the exhibits. So
sure,
ideas are great, and like if we're thinking about jamboree, we need to start thinking now. So
yeah, yeah,
for next year. So
sure,
if there are businesses and industries that are about to have an anniversary and would like information on that, or to help support in that what's new area,
yeah.
um, a mini exhibit, we are very open. Again, we just need time.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I just had a thought too. I think I lost it here, but now I was thinking about just all the schools and the rich history that our schools have. Oh yes, Carroll University, the state's oldest, college. Is there a partnership between the Historical Society and the university that's worth noting, or do you
We
have a section dedicated to Carroll?
well, and we have a very small footprint. So, we do have archival material, um, but they also have an archive too, and I believe they still have an archivist. We work
Sure.
a lot with Dr. Redding, who's a history
Nice.
professor,
Okay.
and she used to be on our board. And then last year I worked with Steve and a Brewer. I think it's Brewer, and I apologize, Steve, if I'm getting your last name wrong. Who's
Mm,
marketing, and his students came up with some ideas to help us um, increase our marketing outreach. So we definitely partner with Carol, and I don't want to say any school, but when
yeah.
people reach out to us and we have the capacity, we love to do that.
Sure.
Again, we're small, so
Right.
sometimes
Right.
but um, always looking for yeah, again, it goes back to the getting out of our castle
Yeah.
and
Yes.
being a part of the community.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, and having that external presence, I think that's terrific. Yeah. So yeah, because we one of my guests on the radio show last fall was my neighbor and good friend Ron Gulata, who's the interim dean at UW-Milwaukee Waukesha campus that will be closing.
Yes.
after many years of service to the community, and they've got quite the archive. It'd be neat that somehow that maybe after they close their doors, what could live at the historical society if that hasn't been done
Well,
already.
you don't know, they've already reached out to us.
I figured as much.
Michael
Okay, great.
Baxter from the Waukesha County Community Fund, also just an amazing human being and a
Yeah,
great connector,
sure.
connected
Oh,
us.
great.
And so we've had that conversation, and I know they're super busy right now,
I'm so
but
glad.
we will have some of the material.
Sure. So, for being, like you said, a small footprint and having a skeletal crew, as many nonprofits have, you seem like you're ahead of the curve because everything I've thrown at you, oh, yeah, we're already there now. We're on it. So, kudos to you. Um, that is terrific.
Small but strong, small and scrappy.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's another kernel is Carroll is expanding their footprint with the Sullivan School. I forget the official name, but they're building a larger business school in addition to the one they currently have. And alumni Tim Sullivan, I believe, is the name. Is that's they've raised $100 million. He's invested 10 million of his own money. He's also a Catholic Memorial graduate, and they've purchased the old Infinity Fields Five Diamonds, and that's now a part of the CMH campus. So it seems they're going. It'd be neat, maybe if there's a connection there to invest in kind of a business history, honoring
Mhm.
all the great innovators in
Yeah.
Waukesha industry. I think that'd be a great partnership there.
Yes, that definitely.
And
Again,
possible funding partner, not, but how
always looking
fun
for
would
that.
that be? Yeah.
And
So,
again, not just like, oh, we need, but this community. This is so important for this community. Let's
mhm.
not lose these stories.
Yes.
And I see I'd like the museum, and I'm not going to say like become a science and industry museum, but
Yeah.
again, to have a place where people can experiment and play and
It celebrates that.
and
Yeah.
celebrate,
Yeah.
and then be can envision themselves as the next innovator
Sure. Oh, yeah.
and have that space. So
And talk about our innovators like the performing arts center, the civic theater.
yes.
So much great history there.
Hmm.
And even prior to that, one thing I think should definitely be captured is if you remember during COVID, when there was still the shutdown in many regards, for Christmas time, they did a radio production
Mm.
of It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh,
And
how
it's a
fun.
very bold and very, innovative, and but yet also celebrating that American holiday heritage with one of the great, classics. And that
And
was
doing it
very,
on radio. And doing it on radio.
yeah.
Like
Yep.
I'm thinking of fireside chats. Mike
Yes.
Steady is a historian
FDR.
with
Yep.
the Depression, and so
Sure.
FDR is my guy.
Yeah.
So again, and that radio tradition is just amazing.
So,
It goes back to what we were talking about with oral histories, storytelling.
mhm.
It's
Studs
sharing
Terkel started on the radio.
mhm. So storytelling and sharing those stories and having that sometimes a back and forth, sometimes absorbing, and then you retelling the story is so important.
Yes. Yeah. Like really strengthening that oral history muscle
Yep.
in each of us. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. So yeah, I mentioned Studs Terkel is a personal hero of mine. I got to see him at Steppenwolf, and
Oh wow.
is
I
there
didn't know.
a yeah? Oh yeah, and there are different artists reading his works, and one of them was John Mahoney, who played a fireman who lost some, um, I guess coworkers in a fire, and really, really moving. But is there a Studs Terkel we have in Waukesha other than John Shane Connect and your
You
staff?
know, um, I'm going to say not me at this point. I'd like to have somebody help take this on. So I think I mentioned in the break, like I really this year I have to focus on development,
Yeah.
and oral histories really require somebody to have a
Hmm.
project. I call it the sandbox. What is your
Sure.
project?
Yeah.
Connecting with people, doing the
Yeah.
recordings, transcribing, and then storing. It's a lot of work. So if somebody is interested in joining and taking on this project, I'm really passionate about it, but I also recognize I can't take it on
Oh,
at this
sure.
point in my
Yep.
life. I need to
Yeah.
be retired. When I'm retired, then I can do it. But right
Sure.
now, I'm in not. It's not the
Sounds
day.
great. So in our last minute left, and I want to thank you again for sticking around for podcast two.
Sure.
What is it you want listeners to know about the Historical Society Museum that we have not covered yet?
I think we've covered a lot. I just want to reiterate that Waukesha has an amazing historical society museum, and we want to make sure we are meeting the needs of this community. So if you have ideas or thoughts, we would love to hear them. We want you here. We want to be part of your community. We want you part of our, again, that we're part of each other's community. Come and see us, communicate with us. You can email us. Um, Come, and if we're not meeting your needs, tell us what we can do.
Sounds great. Nicki Ciurro, Executive Director, Waukesha County Historical Society Museum. Thank you for spending your Saturday with us. Please be sure to go to the website, waukeshacountymuseum.org. Go visit Nicki in person during the hours of operation and really take advantage of the wonderful resources they have to celebrate our Waukesha history and make ourselves enrich our lives and all those things. I want to wish everyone a safe and enjoyable holiday weekend. And yes, please remember that safety is everybody's responsibility. Good mental health is everybody's right. And a great knowledge of our social history is also our right. And we must fight for that, must take advantage and utilize um, the Historical Society and Museum at the old courthouse there. Um, and again, thanks again, everybody, for listening in. I want to thank my fantastic producer, the mighty Max Martinson. And thank you again, Nicki. And then, yes, to be continued, there will be other podcasts, hopefully very soon, to hear about the latest that's going on at one of the great treasures of our city, the Waukesha County Historical Society and Museum. Thank you again, everybody. Go Ramil Mahagav Goler and see ya.